I'm going to go through just some of the elements here and explain to you what they all are and what they mean. So this area is the stock symbol. That's the stock ticker. It also gives you the price of the stock, which is on the left side there. It gives you, next to that, today's change, so how much the price has changed today, and then the percentage change of that price. Going further down, this is where it gets into the technical stuff. So you have two things there. You have a bid, an ask, and then you have a bid size and an ask size. So the bid is basically like an auction, right? People are bidding on something. This is the highest price that anybody right now is willing to pay for this stock, right? So in this case, at this moment, it was $278.27. That was the maximum that anybody who's willing to buy this stock is willing to pay for it. Underneath that, you have the bid size, which is a multiple of, basically multiply that number by 100, that's how much the highest price is willing to, how many stocks the highest bidder is willing to buy. So somebody is willing to buy 200 shares of this security at that $278.27 price. The same goes for the ask. That's so what you're asking for it, which means that this is the lowest price that somebody is willing to accept to sell that security, that specific security. And the ask size is, again, the corresponding number in hundreds of how much they're willing to sell. And so what happens is when you have a match with these prices, that's when a transaction happens. So the system is always just looking in the background, checking to see what's the bid, what's the ask, and trying to match them up. And the second they overlap, it executes those transactions, and then it goes back to the next highest and lowest price. But here what you see is basically what's currently happening and what people are currently offering and asking for the product or for the stock. To the right of that, you'll see high, a low, open, and previous close. So the high is the highest point that it's been trading at today. This is, for some reason, it's not showing up. That's odd, but not unusual. The low is the lowest price that it's traded today. The open is what the price was when the market opened. And then the previous close is basically when the market closed yesterday, this is the price that it was at. It's not necessarily going to impact your decisions or anything. This is just information that they're providing you. Going a bit further down, we have volume, 52-week high, 52-week low, and last trade. So last trade is, again, the last date that something was traded. You don't really need to, the last date that something was traded. You don't really need to know that, especially if it's something that's very frequently traded, because the last date is going to be today. The volume is how many shares of this have traded so far today. The higher it is, the more liquid something is said to be, so it's easier to sell and easier to buy if you're looking for it. The 52-week high and 52-week low, that's pretty, I think, self-explanatory. It's just the highest and the lowest price over the last year. So that gives you a sense of where the current price is compared to what it's been over the last year. If it's been growing, if it's been falling or stagnant, etc. And moving on to the right, here you have the market cap, you have shares and average volume. This is like nice to have, it's not really necessary. The market cap is just the value of all the shares outstanding. So it's just like number of shares outstanding times the price. The shares is the number of shares outstanding, how many have been issued. And the average volume is on a regular day, on an average day, how many of these shares were traded, bought and sold. It just gives you a sense of how liquid the instrument is. Like how easy it is to get your hands on it. You're not going to be trading 72 million shares of anything anytime soon, unless it's like a penny of a penny of a penny stock. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And now when you actually go to place an order, you'll see a few different things, and this is where you sort of have to know what you're doing. Quantity is very self-explanatory. This is how many shares you want to buy. This you're going to determine by how much money you want to put in, and then it's like what's the share price right now, and you sort of divide that to say how many can I afford. and then that's the quantity you put in. The order type is important. There are essentially, for your purposes, at least starting out, you should stick to 2 order types. There's limit and market. A market order means that you're either buying or selling at whatever the current market price is, and that means that the system will just take, if you're buying, let's say, it'll just take the lowest available ask price and will just keep buying and going up the chain until it fills your order. So if you want to buy 100 shares, let's say, someone's selling 50 at $10 and someone's selling 50 at $11, it'll buy both clusters. And so you'll end up buying half of them at 10, half of them at 11, and your average price comes out to about 10 and a half. So that's how that works. And also if you sell it, it's the same deal. It just sells it at whatever the highest bid price is, and then keeps filling it until your order's done. A limit order is different. A limit order is where you set the price that you want to buy or sell at. So if I want to sell my 100 shares at $10.75 a share, I'm going to put that as my limit price. So I say I don't want to sell unless it's this or higher. Or conversely, if you're buying, I don't want to buy unless it's this or lower. And then the system will basically just wait until there's a corresponding counterparty, and then they'll just execute the transaction. Duration, normally, this will let you set how long you want your order to be valid for. Normally, you'll just do it for the day, right? You'll say, duration until close. So that means I've set my order now. If it doesn't execute at the end of the day, just cancel it, and then we'll start fresh tomorrow. You can also do, end of week or other combinations, but the simplest one is just do it today.